In the last clipping we looked at a link member or an axial member, right. Now we will look at a system that you can build out of this. Okay. The simplest system that you can build out of this, thanks to Mr. Venkateshwar Rao, we have built a system here. If you notice, each is a member. I am just going to take it out to show you. Each is a member where the forces are acting essentially at 2 points, the point here and the point here, alright, and therefore this is an axial member, okay, and each of these members are joined together. Give me a minute to join them together, and there you go, you get a structure. Remember, every one of this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one or this one are pinned together. You can see it here, okay, we will have a closer view later, to form a structural system, and it consists of one dimensional axial or link members like this. Okay. Such a system is called a truss system. Okay. Please remember that we need to have forces acting only at these points, and they have to be only forces and not moment resultants, which means the only possibility of forming this particular structure is by using pins that join each one of this. Are you able to see? Each one of these yellow pins join the members. Okay. Also, we have another requirement in this. I cannot have forces in between, which means that I should assume that the mass of these are negligibly small compared to the forces that act on this particular system. Supposing I apply a force, or for example I pull or push at any one of these joints, okay, and I have a structural system. I can use the structural system in order to take loads. Okay. One such example we will see in detail, okay, and let us look at an example of this sort itself. Let me draw this. I have such members joined together. If you do not mind my drawing in a rough way, these are pinned together at these points, and let us say I have to now fix it to a fixed frame. Okay, so I will fix it on this board at one point here. This is not enough because the entire, I am sorry, I have to add one more here. The entire thing can only move, it cannot remain stationary. In order to make it stationary, I have to at least have one more here that makes it stationary. So let me apply that also. So I will put a roller support at this point. So let me name them as A, B, C, D and E. Okay. What have I named? Each of these pins I have named now, so that every one of these members can get a name. For example, this member can be called as AC, this member can be called as AB or BA. What we will do is we will make sure that we go alphabetically one after the other. So I will call this as AB. How about this? It is BE, DE, BD, and BC. Okay. Well, if you had joined these two, you would have had AD as well as BC, right. Now we have BC at least. Alright. So if you notice carefully, it is possible to name every one of these members depending on where each of the ends of the members are joined. Okay. So in all, if you look at this particular truss structure, all the members are joined by pins, so are pinned together. Okay. The other condition that we have already imposed is forces or external forces act only on the pinned joints. We can also impose one more condition, but that is not a necessary condition, that is all members are straight. We will examine what happens if it is not straight at a later stage. I will give that as an exercise for you. If they are straight, I know very well, I can use all the results that I have from this particular notion. Okay. And given that these conditions are satisfied and it is pinned to a particular fixed frame, we have a structure now called the truss system. Okay. So forces can act, for example, I can have a force over here. Another important thing here that I have not added is every one of these members, as we already know, are one dimensional members. Okay. So I will just add over here all members are one dimensional. Okay. One of the easiest thing that we looked at earlier of drawing a one dimensional member is, instead of drawing like this, I could have drawn just a single line joining each one of these points. So let us do that particular exercise next. So let me do that pretty fast. It is easier to draw also, right. Looking at this, I can now write A, B, C, D and E, and all these are one dimensional or line members. Okay. And I can now insert the support over here. Okay. This is the same thing that I have drawn here. Okay. Just to make sure I denote that these are pins, I am just going to insert nice circles in the form of pins. Okay. So now I have drawn the same truss structure in a very simple way. All right. Now cut. One more important thing that I have forgotten here, which I mentioned when I was talking about this, is each of these members are assumed to have weight less than or negligible compared to the forces applied on them. Okay. So we will write members have negligible, I will write straight away write weight. alright.